Hi, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged, and tonight we're going to be talking about the upcoming Pluto return. If you're not used to the show, we've been doing about 3 years, and we do different topics like a magazine, and you never know what we're going to cover. We're not necessarily going to cover specifically the coronavirus, which we've done so thoroughly in the past month or two, but we are talking about something that probably brought the virus astrologically. And we're talking about the Pluto return. Now, I want to talk to you about what I mean. I'm going to take my time tonight. In the zodiac, this is the USA chart, which was rectified by Sibley, an astrologer, and Dane Rudger. So there's a lot of arguments about which birth chart is the American chart. Some things don't matter because on 1776, July the 4th, the planets don't change that much. But when you come down to the time of birth, nobody knows. There's a lot of arguing about the chart. And this is one of the charts that I've been working with for a while. And one of the reasons I like this chart is this chart had Saturn and Pluto right here during 9/11, which makes a lot of sense. Now, we're talking about Pluto was at 27 degrees and 32 minutes of Capricorn. That's why I'm using this style zodiac tonight. Pluto was at 27:32 in 1776 on the 4th of July. Right now, Pluto has gone all these years you've been in America, and all these years of America, Pluto travels very slowly all the way around the zodiac, and Pluto in the past several years is now at 25. It's just about there. And that's enough to wake you up. And that's a lot of what's causing a lot of this. Now, I want to talk about return charts first. And you understand the implications of this very heavy duty Pluto return that we're already within aspect. Now, I want to mention that tonight, for you people live, tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time, the great astrologer Richard Tarnas is putting on a special talk called What's Happening in the Stars Right Now, and he is the genius of astrology in the world at the moment, who wrote the fabulous book called Cosmos and Psyche. It took him 30 years to write the book, and this book just goes on detail after detail after detail after detail on our whole history, following just Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Just those four planets. When they were square to each other, when they're opposite each other, when they conjuncted each other. His whole book is 30 years of going back to the French Revolution and American Revolution and whatever it is. He shows you symbolically how these planets were in perfect sync with all the events. So it's Richard Tarnas is his name. He'll be on tonight. If you're interested at 10 o'clock Eastern, you can go to his site that he's using, which is called Eventbrite. That's one word, Eventbrite, Brite. That's a ticket, like Ticketmaster. Eventbrite.com. He's looking for a $10 donation, or you can go on free if you want. Also, he's going to be publishing this for you YouTubers. He's going to be putting this out on YouTube, and he will also have the downloadable audio. So that is a fabulous thing because he doesn't speak very often, and this guy is out there. This guy is just brilliant. He wrote the Encyclopedia of Astrology, which is definitely Cosmos and Psyche. He also wrote The Passion of the Western Mind, which has become a real must-have for philosophy students. Okay, tonight we're going to spend a lot of time with Pluto. And I don't know what John does. John kind of appears, then he disappears. I never know, but John's a real expert. There he is. John's a real expert with what I told him this week was evolutionary astrology. Also joining us tonight will be my good friend Stephen Poplin out of Virginia Beach, who's a wonderful astrologer, and regressive hypnotist and transpersonal hypnotist and what all them different types. Anyhow, we're going to talk about, before you can understand what a Pluto return is, I'm going to give you some examples of other returns. Every time you have a birthday, the sun comes back to the sun. In astrology, the sun goes around the earth. It's around Earth, by the way. The sun goes around the earth and it returns. And that's why so many clients come to astrologers during their solar return. And your birthday every year is not exactly the same time. Your birthday is when the sun comes back to the same spot, lined up with a certain star way out there. So it's physical. And during your birthday, you do a snapshot, Polaroid of your birthday, and that chart's very, very accurate. And that chart will predict, and I hate to use that word, it will predict your next year. Clearly. And that's why a lot of astrologers get their solar return chart done. Now, you don't realize this stuff happens all the time. You see pictures on calendars of the moon and the quarter moon. I got to do it backwards because my left and right are opposite yours. The moon, the quarter moon, the full moon, the three-quarter, the gibbous moon, and then the new moon. With the sun, this is why you have 90-day probation periods. When the sun is born at any event, starting a job, being born, starting a marriage, whatever it is, when that sun is born, it gets to its opening square 3 months later. This is why you have 90-day probation periods. People don't even know that, but that's why it comes like that. People don't realize that at the opposition, that's another one. It's another 90 days. And at the closing square, that's another 90 days. And finally, 360 all the way around. The way orbs work, the way phases work, and there's a lot of arguments about this, but something is born, you mark down the time, and that's why I'm telling you, even though you're not a great astrologer yet, most of you, mark down the time when something happens to you. A car wreck, a baby being born, starting a business, whatever is eventful, write down the time because it's really hard to get it after the time's expired. And you may want to give that to your astrologer or do a chart yourself because things are being born all the time. When something is born, like starting a business or getting married, you'll have your first trial, starting a job. You'll have your first trial 90 days later. And what happens at the 90-day? What happens at the first quadrant of any cycle is the entity's being tested. It has its first crisis. That's why Saturn, 28 years around, that's why Saturn has its initial crisis in marriages at year 7, the 7-year itch. Because the thing is started, the thing is allowed to express itself, the thing is born, the thing is growing, and then it will come to a natural crisis of some kind at 1/4 of its orbit. Now, remember, the moon orbits every 28 days, and Eris orbits every 540 years. So all these orbits are different. So this is why you have a 90-day trial period. And at the 90-day trial period, you're tested to see how strong you are. At the 180, which is your 6-month or half-year birthday, or in Saturn's case, it's every 14 years, the planet's opposite itself. And when it's halfway, like a full moon, when it's opposite itself, it's tested and you can see it clearly because you're across the zodiac looking at yourself and you have to make up your mind. Am I going to keep this thing going? Am I going to change it? I'm aware of the pitfalls. I'm aware of the strengths. But this is why crises happen so many times to kids when they're 14 in junior high because Saturn has become opposite itself. Now, I could spend a lot of time talking about all these different planets because they have different stories. So we see it with the sun, then we see it at the 3/4 mark. Saturn is now at 21 years of age, 3/4 of the way around, 7 years per quadrant. And we see at age 21, it's a massive turning point, but also at age 21, you have the first opening square of Uranus. So Uranus, which takes 84 years to go around, is having its opening square at age 21, while Saturn's having its closing square at age 21. And this is why 21 is so confusing, because Saturn wants to get it together and Uranus wants to blow it apart and do something wild. Now, I have a really popular video, 3,500 views on YouTube on Uranus. Type in Rick DiClemente if you're interested. Uranus stages, or stages of Uranus. And this shows you, because even though Uranus is far out, Uranus travels through the zodiac rather regularly. It is 7 years per sign, 21 years per quadrant. So that video, I specialize in what happens at 21, why it's rebellion, which is part of Uranus. Why is it rebellion from the home? At age 42, the midlife crisis. Uranus is opposite Uranus. Why and what the midlife crisis is. And I notice a lot of people read this because they're going through midlife crises. There's a second midlife crisis that happens with Uranus, and that's at 63, when Uranus is now three quarters of the way through. I got to get this, my left and right straight. And then Uranus returns at age 84. We're going to be talking about the Pluto return today. Because, once again, share screen, here we go. Pluto started here in the United States chart. The U.S. could have lasted 2 years. It could last 500 years, whatever. But they go this way, and you notice how Pluto got to its square when it got to 2732 of Aries. When it got to 2732 of Aries, it was square to itself. Okay? That was when its opening square was. People don't even know these things are happening. Now, Pluto's opening square. Okay. We have to understand, first of all, what an orb is. An orb is allowance. So if I say a planet's opposite a planet, I look at it when it's exact, but it can be a little bit off and still be in effect. So that's what's called the orb, or the allowance. So if you got a planet at 10 and a planet at 12, that's still real tight, it's 2 degrees off. If you got a planet at 9 and a planet at 9, that's real powerful. That's why I commented earlier that I was really nervous about seeing that the United States Mars is at 22 Gemini and it's square to Neptune at 23 or 21. It's only 1 degree different. The tighter the orb is, the tighter the guitar string is. And a real simple way to understand this is when you hear a truck coming down your street and this house starts to vibrate and the truck's getting closer to your house and the windows start to vibrate and the truck gets right next to your window and the window's going, and then it starts to fade, the Doppler effect. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's why in a natal chart, you really don't want to see anything too close. When planets are too close to each other, they smother each other. I mean, our charts are the way they're supposed to be, but when planets are really tight, the one planet can't breathe and neither can the other one. And each planet wants to be itself. So when you hear me talk about orbs, I don't know what Stephen uses, I use 9 degrees with most of my stuff, and I've been pretty happy with 9 degrees. So if I have a square, I give it a 9 degree fluctuation before I declare it a square. Some people are more sensitive, like artists, babies, artists, poets. You'll find them acting when a planet's in a much wider orb than people who are thicker skin. Sometimes people with real thick skin, the planet has to be almost exact before they notice it. So that's what an orb is. And the reason I'm bringing up orbs is this. In the masterpiece, Cosmos and Psyche, Tarnish uses 15-degree orbs, which is really big. So a planet that's at 1 degree is already in effect if the natal planet's at 16. So I started thinking about that and realizing that he maps out the periods of the Dark Ages, of the Renaissance. He marks out, he tabulates all these ages, and he does very well with a 15-degree orb, especially with the outer powerful planets. Now, when I took that into effect, I went back and looked. All right, we have Pluto going through return now, but take a look at this. This will make your eyebrows go up. So Pluto started here. And Pluto got to 27. Its effect started when it was at 12 and a half. 12 and a half is getting closer because that was well within the 15-degree square to Pluto. So those years when it was 12 and a half, all the way to 12 and a half of Taurus, it was exact at 1848 was the exact square. But the whole period is a 30-year period. And Pluto's on a very irregular orbit, which means it goes through Gemini in something like 30 years and in Sagittarius in 15 years because it's on an elliptical pattern. And its chunks of the pie are uneven. So when you look at the opening square of our Pluto in our young country, we experienced it from 1833 until 1865. Does that ring a bell? That's when the Civil War ended, including the whole time of the Civil War. So Mr. Lincoln and his other predecessors had to entertain the opening square of Pluto, and there were a lot of people trying to split the country apart. Cycles are natural. Cycles happen by themselves. That's why you say to yourself inherently, well, one of these days is going to catch up with you. And it's all dependent upon, yes, Stephen, certainly, go ahead.
Since you're talking about the Civil War, I just wanted to add yet another dynamic connected to that. And as you already said, Uranus takes 84 years to go around the zodiac, right? So you just do 1776 plus 84, and it's 1860.
So Uranus had to return. I'm going to turn my heat down. Uranus
Same time.
In 1860? Okay.
1860.
Well, that's even more powerful.
That's right. So we had both of them doing the same thing. We had both that Pluto square and then also Uranus having its Uranus return going around.
And what sign does Uranus rule?
Yeah, and of course it's in Gemini, so that split the country.
Sure, and what does it rule? Who rules Aquarians? And when you read the biography of Lincoln, Lincoln was hell or high water. I'm keeping this country together because that's what my oath was. He did it almost by himself. Remarkable, even though he chose a bunch of bad generals. He was so idealistic. So when your natal chart is more unstable, when it is more problems it has, the less chance it has during these square times or opposition times. The stronger the entity, the better odds it has of going through the square, because the square happens to challenge you, just like boxing does. It toughens you up. Okay, so it's up to you. But the cycles are natural. They're going to happen no matter what, and that's what the Pluto return is doing now. And what I've been realizing lately, because I've been so focused on what Eris is doing, which is very real, this Pluto return has been having its way with us. Let's go on to the second time. Thank you for that. It's really good Good stuff to add there, Stephen. Okay, now, if you take a look, so Pluto during the Civil War had to go through Reconstruction, and during the years when it got out of it and it came into the trine, things got better and better and better, and eventually it got to where it was opposite. And the opposite point exactly is 27 and a half of Cancer, right here. But you give it 15 degrees either way, for the whole period. And that was 1925 through Hitler in 1948. You had the Depression, World War II, Nazism. Now, during that opposition, 1925, you see, for 23 years, till 1948, when the World War II came about and Korea was just starting, you had a lot of the good things happening in the country, but you still had trials. People were dividing up the earth, dividing up the powers that be, etc. You have to keep in mind that when you're looking at Pluto squares or Pluto oppositions or whatever, we're talking about power, because that's what Pluto is. Pluto is the planet that gives us passion. It's the ruler of Scorpios. It's the one that makes you brave and courageous, or it just smashes you like a Nazi tank. That simple. It's a very destructive planet if it decides that you don't deserve to continue to exist. Pluto doesn't mess around. That's why it rules things like waste trucks. People taking away your waste. The parts of the body that have to do with waste and getting rid of toxins. All Plutonian things. So in 1948, we came at the end of that crisis, and we stayed until the really deceptive one, the really clever, quiet, sneaky one. 1 second, please. And that was 1977, Mr. Reagan, 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and that's when the middle class was destroyed. The middle class did not make it through the third square, the second square. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was just paralleling what you were saying about that Pluto opposition and World War II, because if we again follow the planet Uranus in 1944, it again returned to its natal place in Gemini, and again we were at war, and of course that now we're in the atomic age at that point, and that was a real big thing, you know, with again the Gemini splitting the atom.
Yes, and Roswell and all that. Well, it's exactly right. So we're seeing the opening square was the Civil War. The opposition was the Depression. The closing square, which is when you got screwed, you didn't really know it because you're being lied to, was all the bullshit about trickle down. Trickle down into the rich people's pockets and the destruction of the middle class. And now that we're coming into the closing square, okay, it's only 2 years away. It will finish the closing square. We have been in this closing square 2014. Remember, Pluto went into Capricorn. I'll show you. Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, and we wrote about it in 2005. And I didn't want to say anything, but I saw the end of the US in 2005. And I'm pretty sure of it now, unless we get some miraculous intervention. And we have gotten a miraculous intervention called a virus. But it's kind of hard to talk about. But by 2014, we were 6 years into Pluto into Capricorn. We started to hear it in the masses. People were talking everywhere. This is corrupt. That is corrupt. That is corrupt. That is corrupt. Let me explain to you what a Pluto return is. A Pluto return is like mom and dad are going out for the evening. We're going to leave you kids in the house. I'm going to leave you a bunch of money. I've trained you real well. This is 1776. I've trained you real well with good ethics, and I'll be back periodically to check on you. And with that money, you have been trained ethically to build good things and put up a Statue of Liberty and stay true to it. If we come back in the year 2020, and it's returning in 2022, February 20th of 2022 is the official return. It's been in effect since 2014 till 2022. The mom and dad come home and they inspect. Well, what have you been doing? And when that inspection takes place, listen to this. When that inspection takes place, there is nothing that you can do about it. You're not going to get the dog ate the homework. You're not going to get any more excuses. You will be evaluated naturally. You just will. Because these archetypal forces are very powerful and essential at our base of being. So when you're seeing now, what are you seeing now? Well, this guy goes to get that, but he can't go get that because that guy's not at work. And that guy's not at work because this guy's not at work. And we're seeing everybody's at home. And this planet, these viruses just smashed us into staying home. It's just a little tiny micron thing big. It's just taking total control of us. This does not mean that the USA is going to end. It does not mean we're going to survive and rebuild. It doesn't mean either one. But you've got, what do you got, John? What do you got here? You got in 2020, in 2022, you were saying, Stephen and John, we were talking about Neptune is going to be opposite Neptune.
Yeah, and square the Mars.
Which is a spiritual crisis. You're going to have Pluto return, and that's going to go on for years. It's going to go back and forth over top Pluto. It doesn't just go on for 1 year.
Yeah, right on the heels of that, we've got the Uranus, the third ever Uranus return in the United States in 2028. So it's like all these returns, or, you know, half returns in the case of Neptune, like right within a period of just like 7-8 years.
Now these returns, this Uranus and this Pluto, they will help you if you get with it. But the number one thing these planets require is got to be honest with each other, with other countries, and you got to honestly try and have good morals and good ideals. Then these planets can be enormously powerful and phenomenal waves that you can ride for a long time. But if you're still trying to do the Republican thing and shove it under the rug, you see what happened in 2018 when I wrote about it for 15 years before. 2018. The Republican Party, GOP, was started in a place called Jackson, Michigan. 164 years later, Neptune returned in 2018. What do you think Neptune did to the Republicans? They died.
It dissolved.
What?
Dissolved.
They dissolve. That's what Neptune does. It doesn't blow stuff up. It just dissolves. Why? Because they were spiritual, Neptune, spiritually bankrupt. They tried all their smoke and mirrors, all their lies, and when they were just on their last gas, they stuck out their pinky and they grabbed onto this corrupt thing sailing by called Trump. But they're dead. They're not there. There is no GOP. There's Trump, whatever this Trump thing is. And what's interesting is I put a video out in 2015 because Jupiter was opposite Neptune at the time. And I put a video out talking about the beauty of that. And now you could use that Jupiter and Neptune opposition to be a time of great new beginnings and enthrallment spiritually, or you could join a cult.
They chose the cult.
A lot of people chose the cult, and you see why tonight when you see that Mars and Gemini square to Neptune. We don't want to be bothered. I cannot tell you, this is not a sign of me being against Gemini, but I cannot tell you how many times I've interviewed Geminis and I'll bring up a story or a category that's semi-serious, and they will say to me, I'm not bothered with it. I don't bother with it. Gemini learns laterally. It does not, if you take them underwater, they start to choke. They start to drown. They can't stand it. They only can understand learning laterally. Oh, there's something over here. Oh, there's something over here. Oh, there's something over here. Take a Scorpio, take an Aquarian, they learn this way. They get down into it. But it's a natural part of the zodiac. That's why when you read that book, you don't just read your chapter. You read the whole thing because it puts it all in perspective. So, the Pluto return is forming. It has been forming, and we started in 2008, but by 2014, it started to get within orb, 15 degrees away, of its natural beginning where it began, and people started getting it. You started hearing everywhere on the radio, on all the websites. People started talking about, what are we going to do? There's just so much corruption. And one of the things you have to look about that, the corruption didn't just happen, it was discovered then. Now I don't even put it out of the ordinary. So many women talk to me about being raped. 2004, 2000, people had to whisper everything and you didn't talk about stuff and it was so hidden and and now we talk about vaginas and you talk about penises left and right on TV. It's all open now, which is a good part of it. But you are discovering so much of the corruption that's happened. Now, Pluto's job is not to just come by and smack you around if it found this corruption. It's here to upturn it. It's here to encourage you to fix it. But like I say, and I've said in so many articles, and I'm sure Stephen has too, if you get with it and you admit what's happened and you introspect, but a Cancer country that's got Mars squared to Neptune doesn't want to introspect because there are scary things in there when you introspect. And Pluto says, well, no kidding. But that's how you deal with Pluto, and that's how you succeed these Uranus returns, is you honestly introspect. You come up and you bring your best and brightest and start to rebuild anew, new structures, which is the Pluto and Capricorn structures. Then these planets, then you're working in sync with the planets. And those energies become part of your thrust towards rebuilding new institutions. So one thing I want to say, and then I want to give this. No, I'll go back to this in a minute. Go ahead, Stephen.
Talking about Pluto, I think, Rick, you and I looked at the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in January, and we set it for Washington, D.C. Remember that chart?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So at that very moment, the midheaven was 27 degrees Capricorn. No, 27 degrees Capricorn. At that very moment when Saturn and Pluto conjuncted, set for Washington, D.C. And so even though it's 2022 that the exact Pluto return is going to happen, that, it's already happening. Okay? Even
exactly, because you're
15
looking
degrees. It's just really pretty potent.
You're looking at April now, but back in January of this year, Pluto and Saturn were together. And almost exactly when it happened is when the virus came out. Almost exactly. Okay, when you become an astrologer, you're going to expect this. Healing and solutions for cancer will happen when these big planets line up. Breaking the atom open, great scientific events happen when the big planets are lined up, such as quantum physics, etc. So you'll not only have disasters like the Neptune return? What was it? Neptune hit Neptune went into Pisces. Neptune entered Pisces the day of Fukushima. No, I'm sorry. It was a day.
Uranus.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah,
when
yeah, Uranus, the 11th of
was that Uranus?
March 2011.
When Uranus entered Pisces, right?
When the Uranus entered Aries.
Yeah.
When Uranus entered Aries,
Yeah, yeah. That you're talking about Fukushima, right?
Yeah.
Fukushima was
Yeah.
caused by a tidal wave, right?
That's right, which is interesting because it was so exact that the day before it was in Pisces, which is the water. The day after it was in Aries,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
explosion, fire. It's just amazing.
Well, I don't have the exact planets, but you get the point, and they are there. That is exactly what his book is all about, Cosmos and Psyche. And you may not want to buy it because it's a big reference book, it's thick, but it's a marvelous book as reference because it goes back to everything that happened, and the planets are always there because the event cannot happen unless the planet's there. It just can't. Chernobyl, same thing. Chernobyl, same thing. We're getting, for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm seeing messages that we are able to send to each other live that don't show up on your screen. All events happen when the planet's there. They just do. So the one thing I was getting into there, Stephen, for a second, one of the most common things, whether Pluto's in your chart hitting one of your planets, whether you have a composite chart with somebody else and Pluto hits your composite chart, whether it's a country's chart and Pluto's hitting a point, one of the main things Pluto does is this. It inspects you, and that's why when you're with Scorpios and so many people talk about, man, he just stared right through me. I don't know what he's looking at. It's like he's looking through my soul. Well, he is. That's what Scorpios do, because that's where they're centered. They can only look at your center because they're in their own center. Because they're very strong people. One of the main things that Pluto does when it's not happy with what you're doing is it separates you from your support systems. Look at what's happening around you. Watch the news. Being separated from your support system. Hell, I'm afraid to go to the drugstore. I'm afraid to go get food. We've all lost our support system because this little kick-ass bug, this little tiny thing. But it's got nothing to do with the bug. How does it really happen? This is my beliefs, my perceptions anyway. The reason Pluto, if you're screwing up, the reason Pluto stops your support systems, it means also the opposite. If you're not screwing up, Pluto will enhance your support systems, bring you more support. That's how it works. But the reason it screws with you, it doesn't do anything. Your own inner nature does it, because your own inner nature says, well, Stephen, I've been talking to you for years. I can't get you to grab your power. I've been showing you where your power is. I've been trying to talk to you all these years. I can't get you to look. I'm trying to get these messages to you that you've got power inside if you just look and try. But if Stephen says, oh, I don't want to do it, I'm just going to hang out with my codependent relationship, guess what Pluto will do? Either through a car wreck or the other person will leave or whatever. You will cause it subconsciously. You will cause that support system to break and leave you. That's why the opposite. When I see so many people and they start throwing their junk out, I'll say this again, one of the most powerful things I've ever seen in 42 years of reading for people is when they break up, divorce, is when they break up with a bad marriage, when they break up with a bad relationship, when they let go and they stop lying to themselves. That's when the person goes, whoo, straight up. Because when they're back there lying to themselves and faking this marriage, they're not alive. That's the reason. And when you're not alive, the life force can't get to you. And when you let go of the junk is when everything goes forward. I talk to so many people that have these marvelous situations, and I ask them, what happened the day before? What happened the week before? Oh, nothing. What happened the week before? Nothing. What happened the week before, the day before? Oh, we're just not used to thinking in these terms. So what the planets do always, the planets are always sending us new shoots, just like a plant. New Uranus shoot, new Pluto shoot, new Saturn shoot. And you must admit, as a growing entity, it's not easy to stay in sync. It's not easy to stay whole. It's not easy to be in sync and stay balanced with all your energies. But when you get real messed up from any one of them being out of balance, Saturn will cause hardships with money. Your Uranus will cause hardships with your freedom or your legs. Neptune will cause hardships with your spiritual life, etc., etc. So that's why you're seeing so much trouble in the USA, is the USA has become dependent. We've known that this place was corrupt. We still go to church there. We've known that the YW is corrupt. We still go exercise there. We still know this place is still corrupt. We still go on. We just keep shoving stuff under the rug. And we've gotten to the point now where the planets aren't going to take it anymore. And then along comes Eris. And who in the hell thought of Eris coming out of nowhere, a new planet squaring Pluto at the same time of a Pluto return, at the same time of Neptune opposite Neptune? So this is why you're seeing all these brilliant people coming out in front of us on TV with brilliant solutions, and you're seeing the last vestiges of the plutocracy trying to push them back down and keep their oil money. And this is no more talking. The oil money will win or we're all gone. Now, you know, for years now, they've started moving in now. The millionaires have been building huge shelters in the mountainsides in New Zealand. And they've been building these huge atomic safe shelters in the mountains of New Zealand. Now they're being thrown out because the billionaires are buying it from them. And they can go in there and live for 460 days and have water and air and TV and shows and tapes and medical doctors, and they can go in there. And they're already moving in. They're already moving in. I thought they were just under construction, but this past couple of weeks, they have been moving in. So what's that going to do? But you can see one of the main reasons that we don't revolt in this country. Let me just show you why. And I just had my eyes open today. Okay. Stop share. Start to share. Okay, here's the USA chart. Rectified by Dane Rudger. This Mars at 21 in Gemini is very childlike. And it's square to Neptune, which means, hey, we could do that. Hey, why not? Let's try it. Hey, no problem. Give it a shot. Woo! Woo! If this doesn't describe the central nervous system of Donald Trump, I don't know what does. But where are you going to go? You're going to go fight. You can't take things that seriously. Oh, hell, it'll blow over. That's what this is. Oh, you can't take it seriously. It'll blow over. Don't worry about it. It's just a little virus. We only have one person in Washington. So what's happening? You take the outer planets off that chart, and you see what the USA chart looked like when they started. It was beautiful. Sun, Jupiter, Venus. Powerful chart. You didn't know about Uranus. You didn't know about Chiron, Neptune, Pluto, or Eris. And once those planets were placed on the zodiac, we had trouble. So the question now is, what's going to happen? Well, nobody knows what's going to happen, but I've been holding back for years. I've not been able to come out and say, well, the U.S. empire is dying. But it is. It's dying. And if the Pluto return is anything, it is climate change. Because Pluto rules the underpinnings, the rocks down beneath you, the soil beneath you. So we look around, we see all these wonderful people. We have a lot of great people. What we're seeing clearly is we've got a lot of work to do to come together. And part of that coming together is we got to shut up this big mouth who's on TV every night at 6 o'clock, trying to talk us into how his one little ego is responsible for thousands of deaths because he disabled the pandemic team.
He's the epitome of Mars Neptune, Rick. He was the epitome of
The
that Mars
epitome of
Neptune.
Mars Neptune.
Super superficial, surface level, doesn't have the attention span of a fly. It's all over the place.
So the important part now is we have to do something that we're not built to do, which is called revolt. We don't shoot anybody. Well, we got to get verbal. We need to get in senators' faces. We need to talk and scream and take people off. What do you see on TV? 50% of what you see on TV now is commercials, taking a drug, and the family's happy.
Mars Neptune. That's what it is.
I take this and I'm happy. I'm going to throw the tennis ball now. I'm going to be fine. Okay, so I can guarantee you as Pluto gets closer, what do you think is going to happen? It's still 2 degrees away. It's going to get a lot more intense. The Pluto Eris is going to remain. I'll show you that. The Pluto Eris is going to remain. There's no way around that. Eris barely moves at all. Let me put the planets on there as they are at the moment.
It's going to be bearing down on our Pluto for a long time to come, Rick. I think like for about 14, 15 years.
Yeah, that's what I expected 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. Okay, here's the USA chart in the middle. Here's where the planets are at this moment. And you'll notice that here's Eris at 24, squaring Pluto, which has Pluto sitting on it. So that's how the big planets work. When a big planet sits on something and gets triggered by something else, that's when the stuff happens. That's what 2 of my shows out of my last 5 weeks have been all about, this Eris hitting the Pluto at the same time. So we're going to have the Pluto, Eris is going to be, my whole lifetime, Pluto's moved from 5 degrees, 6 degrees to here. It's only moved 17 degrees in my lifetime. It moves very slowly. You're going to have the Neptune coming in opposition to Neptune. That's going to bring about a major spiritual crisis. That's why you're seeing traditional religion fade away, thank God, and bring in real religion or real spirituality. So that's a tough nut to crack. That's going to be people saying, told you that the end times were in store. I told you that the latter days are here. Neptune will be opposite Neptune. So these are opportunities, but I'll tell you the truth, only the toughest of the toughest can survive something like this. It's just too much stress. Now, there's no doubt that if we want to look, Sun conjunct Uranus, that just lasts for a couple of days, Peter. Sun moves too fast. So the answer now is, you see all this wonderful grassroots stuff that's starting. People are coming up with wonderful solutions with climate change. People are coming up with wonderful solutions economically. But if we still allow this guy and his minions to keep buffaloing us every night, BSing to us every night, we're going to go down with his ego. And he'll take us all down. He doesn't care. He'll take every one of us down. His whole family down, as long as he doesn't have to admit that he's wrong. So I've explained to you very clearly what a Pluto return is. What do my notes say? Oh, the final thing I wanted to say to you, and we can open up the phones for talk, is Eris is still in Aries. Eris is in Aries, and Eris is this rebellious planet that says, I will be counted, the Me Too movement. Being in Aries, it means that we have to do it ourselves. So we're not used to this, but we have to put the onus upon ourselves to do what we can in our own way. And I'm sure the 10 people sitting here all have 10 different ways. Good. Let's get to it. But we have to speak out. When somebody's bringing up this old bullshit, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. You know? Telling me that putting a mask on, I'm a communist because I got a mask on my face? I mean, it's just crazy. So you're seeing a lot of the good things come up. Remember, this is not just us. The Pluto return is true for us, but our chart rules the world. It's not hitting other countries, but the chart of the head of the world, America is definitely the head. The rest of the planet is experiencing what our president's chart says. Oh my God! By the way, Pluto stops tomorrow on a dime. Pluto's sitting opposite his weak spot. Here's his Venus and Saturn in Cancer. Pluto is right on them both now, right in the middle. Pluto stops tomorrow, right on both of them. It'll start to retrograde. Okay. The outer planets go forward for 7 months. They go backward for 5. Forward for 7, backward for 5. But they're stopping right opposite his 2 planets. And you can't have, I mean, it's so surrealistic what's happening now, lying to your face, and it doesn't matter. As long as you got a network, a TV network that's supporting him and people are watching it. So that's all I got to say. I would be glad to address your viewpoint, your questions. Just raise your hand and I'll be glad to put you on and we will shout at each other, okay? Like a good Italians. Yes, Miss Erica. Let me try to get you unmuted. Okay. You're on.
I know because of the media, when we see something, it just looks like there's this huge thing going on. But, you know, I've been looking at those people who kind of look like Dawn of the Dead zombies looking through the glass at people who want to stay indoors, and the ones that have been walking around with their guns and their ammunition like a bunch of, you know, hot shots.
Who are they going to shoot?
About, you
Who
know,
are they going to shoot?
I'm sorry?
Who are they going to shoot?
They're just 3 brothers, 3 people that are making a lot of noise.
We don't need to waste.
They have been.
We don't need to waste our time.
Trying to put down the NRA and saying that the NRA is too much of a pushover. This is their shtick. This is something that they're doing.
But the point is, you don't have an enemy like you had it in World War II.
These people are all paper tigers. We can push them down.
Well, the problem is we are the problem. We are the problem. We brought this on. We brought all this on. All this corruption in all these places, all this litter, all this allowing politicians to do what we wanted, all this cowardly not voting for the right clients. We have created this.
Well,
we
of course.
And we have to stop it. That's the only way you're going to get out of it. Thank you, Erica. Linda, come on. I know you have a zillion things on your mind. Because you're posting about every 4 seconds, so
you know,
on your mind.
I have a 2-pronged approach. I try to be positive on Facebook,
yeah,
and then I'm into political assault on Twitter. So
okay,
it works for me. When you were the point you made about the original chart of the United States, and how, once you add the outer planets to it, it complicates everything. And we're sort of not built for protest. And I had in my mind the question of can you see anything in the chart that would change that? And I think you answered my question when you said Eris.
Well, Eris, we do have Mercury opposite Pluto. Let me show you the US chart before the outer planets came on. Okay?
I want to speak into that too, Rick. I have something to share as well.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead and I'll get this ready. John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, with Eris approaching US Pluto, so even though we give a lot of like platitudes about how, we the people, right? And the Constitution, Pluto's in Aquarius, yet the United States as a country was founded with Pluto and Capricorn. So I think that's why we have this overwhelming like thing with corporations, elites. So it's really not ruled by the people. We say it is, but the country is set up as it's like these elites, these people with lots of money, Betsy DeVos and Charles and David Koch and all of them. And so having Eris squaring that now, or approaching the square to that, I think Eris really represents the people. And I think it's our opportunity to say, hey, you're not in charge. Even though the country was founded with Pluto and Capricorn, the government is Aquarius, so it's by the people. And so I think that's our opportunity to jump in and really step up and protest that.
You're exactly right. Now look at this chart when we were born. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. And when you Sun, Jupiter, Venus is so incredibly positive. This is the most green pasture, resourceful, new age, new land. Beautiful. Mars and Gemini is very versatile. Mercury and Cancer is very much thinking of the home. This is rich soil, rich home, happy people. We'll take the Saturn square, because the Saturn square can be very good, and the moon's all by itself. This is our Lady Liberty, reaching out to help the world. But you come along and you add all the other planets, and you get Pluto here opposite Mercury. You get Uranus up here. You get the other planets such as this. Display points. So now, when you add the other planets, 1800s, 1900s, 2000, 2100. Now what happens? Now you've got Neptune came out of nowhere, squaring Uranus. We didn't even know Uranus was there. We didn't have these two. We didn't have Eris here opposite the Sun. We didn't have Pluto opposite Mercury. We didn't have Chiron here opposite Saturn. So the whole chart changed, and it's not an accident. It's not, oh, how did this happen? It happened because that's the way we are. That's why it happened. Yes, Linda.
Well, when you look at that Pluto, where it sits, it's in the second house, about our stuff.
Oh yeah, your stuff is our stuff. And
you know what I mean? So that when it finally reveals itself to us, it reveals that we're all about our stuff.
Not only are our stuff, your stuff is mine too.
That's right.
Pluto's opposite Mercury, and Mercury rules the seventh house. And
what's mine is mine, and yours is mine.
That's right. That's exactly right, John. That's exactly what that means. So it's very simple to decree what this means. It means that things are going to really, really keep heading towards destruction and falling apart. The place is falling apart. And at the same time, our power is arriving. Our power to turn it around is arriving. And we know we're going to have to lock up a bunch of people with their guns because they're going to be dangerous. You keep your gun, but go shoot squirrels, and if you start shooting people, we're taking your gun. So how are we going to get, what ruling body are we going to have? Do you think the UN's going to support us? Do you think WHO is going to support us? Do you think
I,
is going to support us once goofball's done with them?
I've got a couple thoughts to throw in as well, Rick. So, I mean, Pluto will destroy our government. I mean, I shouldn't say Pluto will destroy it, but
There is no
I
government.
mean, it
It's
is
already
yeah,
gone.
yeah, but I mean,
And
it's gonna.
McConnell took care of that.
Well, yeah, you sure did, didn't you? But yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to restructure things. I mean, however that
He wants
looks.
them to go bankrupt as of last night.
Yeah. So we could see a massive reorganization. The other thing is that we have Neptune crossing the nadir of our chart in a few years. I forget when it gets. Yeah. So I mean, that's gonna Neptune.
When Neptune crosses the nadir, that is so major. What that means is, to an individual, you have to stop what you're doing and throw away your whole life and base your entire life, the rest of your life, on spirit. That's what that means. And the people who do that, move to the country and base their life on spirit, have a wonderful turnout. But the problem with us spiritually is we've been lied to so much about the Bible. Well, so much of the Old Testament junk replaced what Jesus was really saying. Go ahead, John.
Oh yeah, I was just well, yeah. I mean, all that. What I've really been looking at is, I mean, we've got all these things: climate change, flooding. We're going to be probably redrawing some of our boundaries to states as we know them may not exist. Like, I mean,
I think the idea of states is obsolete.
Yeah, I
do
think
away with state, just be called America.
I think United States in some form or another will continue, but I think 20 years from now will probably look very different than what it does today.
Well, what are we going to do for the next 5 years to feed people?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, we have real problems.
The other thing is Pluto. I mean, in just 3 years now, we have Pluto going into Aquarius. I mean, we think Saturn going into Aquarius has been challenging. Pluto, I mean, I feel like Pluto, you know, whatever Pluto touches, it really like pushes to survive or die. I mean, it's been that way with corporations. What we'll see in 2023, we'll see this big tug of war as it goes back and forth from Capricorn into Aquarius. We're going to see social uprisings, then they're going to get clamped down as the corporations.
Yeah, but the big thing, John, the big thing we're seeing now is the beginning of the Aquarian energy. We're seeing the very beginning, which is what Christ talked about, which is when you care for the other, you're caring for yourself. Screw the other, you screw yourself. We're starting to see that now. Marcia, bud, hold on. Oh, yeah, you're on. Thanks, John. Marcia, you're on.
What's been really wonderful for me has been watching Governor Cuomo.
Oh, yeah.
His energy is just what you're describing right now. And someone asked him today, are you going to talk to Mitch McConnell? He said, no, what am I going to talk to him about? He's like rising above him. He's like, I'm not acknowledging his energy anymore.
Exactly. Now, you are exactly right. If we can get a leader or leaders to mimic what he's doing, we'll all be okay. But we got to get through this age. Neptune has been really affecting the chart. We've been lied to so much, and we've been so comfortable being lied to because the Cancer in our chart. And what that means is we don't care if you lied to us as long as you seem strong and you make us feel we're going to be okay. We're okay with it. And that's how we got here. But you're exactly right. The guy's remarkable.
Yeah. And the other day he really let Trump have it. I don't know if you saw it, but it was really fantastic. It was really powerful and it was really honest. And I thought, is that part of an Eris energy?
That's part of Eris.
That's
part of Eris. That's part of Pluto. That's all that. Because Eris's middle name is, I'm not putting up with more BS.
Yeah.
No BS me anymore. That's Eris. Eris is quite different. She's just not going to put up with BS at the party. She wants everybody coming forth. And he's a Sagittarian.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks truth. He's Sun Saturn. You know, he's got a lot of good things in this chart. But I love what you're talking about. He just says, this is how it is, and that's how it is. And okay, I can't trust you. I got to go here. We'll go here.
And every day he talks about the number of people that have died, and it's getting less and less in New York, but it's still very high. And you really feel it. He feels this is the terrible news. We had 475 people die yesterday.
You're exactly right. You could tell Trump wants to kill him. He wants to strangle him. He can't stand what this guy's doing.
Another sad thing is that there's scientists and people that know what's going on, when they're taking kind of a back seat to like power puff or like soften Trump.
Yeah.
So they're afraid of him because of what he might do.
Yeah, but see, you're exactly right. But with that Pluto now, tomorrow, I've been saying for a couple months now, Pluto's stationing. And sometimes a planet will trigger an event just because it's stationing. And it's stationing opposite his weak spot, which is Venus-Saturn over here in Cancer. That's the nobody loves me part of his chart. That's the weak spot. And later in the year, Pluto's going to come back around and hit the Venus. So he's in for even rougher treatment. Nobody loves me, all that crap. That's why he's followed by all these other people who believe that nobody loves him. But you're exactly right. We should have a revolution at the Democratic Convention and install Cuomo.
Yeah.
He's the exact kind of person we need.
Yeah.
Yes, Linda.
One of the interesting things about Cuomo was prior to the pandemic, he was widely hated in New York as a governor. People, I mean, he's abrasive. He's not charming. He has no charm at all. I mean, zero.
Badge is not made for charm.
He just doesn't have any charm at all. But that's the antidote to what we have now, where not that Trump has any charm, but he's not trying to charm us. Let me turn charm into
being blatantly honest.
I mean, and that's and so I think when we think about people who are avatars of an age or of a time, you know, in history, he stands for this thing that we need. I don't even know if it's him that we need, but we need this energy.
You're exactly right. The energy will come.
The person who tells us the truth.
But the energy, the archetypes are so intelligent. The archetypes from intention are so intelligent. They will come according to our intention. And if we intend to take responsibility for how we got here, and if we intend to be straight with our fellow man, the leaders will come. But like we've had for so long, if we intend to just, I don't want to be bothered with it. I don't want to be bothered with it. Let them deal with it.
Or I want to be entertained.
And we're going to be destroyed. This is going to become the new Republic of China or something. I don't know how it's going to look. But that's what matters. That's what all healers will tell you today. What matters is your intention. And I'm reading this book, this incredible book by Wayne Dyer called The Power of Intention. And I really recommend it because he really puts it out there just straight. And intention is nothing but the life force that comes through you. Have to disagree on Cuomo. He has his flaws. Well, of course he has his flaws. Where did you go? There's Mark. Mark, go ahead. I'll try to get you unmuted. Hey,
well, I'll just give you two examples. One of the reasons Cuomo is hated is because although he's a Democrat, he aligned himself with fake Democrats that kept the New York Senate Republican. So it made it possible for the New York Republicans in the state Senate to veto legislation that would have been beneficial for the state. Now, I'm a New York State resident, so I know some of this stuff. Another thing people don't know about Cuomo is that he also underfunded state hospitals. So one of the reasons that New York State didn't have enough hospital beds is because 2 years ago, Cuomo's budget underfunded the funding that would allow for beds to be put in hospitals in case of emergencies. So all I'm trying to say is that people like his toughness, and I get all that stuff, but he's not as pristine as his news conferences would lead you to believe.
Well, I think anybody would look good juxtaposed with Trump, and then maybe that's part of it. But he's temporarily looking pretty good. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
I just want, I mean, I know just, I mean, I know most of that stuff because I, you know, I don't know why I know it. I just do. Because I think on Twitter, I have a bunch of New Yorkers who talk about this all the time. But there's two things about what he's doing that it doesn't mitigate what Mark just said, but it puts it into some kind of perspective. And that is that he says every single time he talks to us, I am not the governor of a blue state or of Democrats. I'm a governor of all the people. You know, I represent all of you, not just part of you. And that's, I think, hugely important right now. Whatever political nonsense he got up to 2 or 3 years ago before all this happened, this is like World War II in a sense. We're in a different era, and this changes people.
Well, you can see here that we've got the sun in Cancer, we got Mercury in Cancer, Venus in Cancer, Mars in Gemini. We got very, very early signs. And when you have early signs, they don't think about that. They think about my tribe versus your tribe. Nye, 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 nye. That's the problem with it. And that's where we have to hope that the Saturn being square at a T-square, and the Eris brings us more universal maturity, and the Pluto brings us universal maturity. We have the wherewithal to do it. But I tell you what, it ain't gonna get prettier. It just isn't. It's not. It's going to get a lot worse. It just is. And we all know the stories, and I appreciate all the talk about Cuomo tonight. We just have to inch along and do everything we can. I think we got a real good group once again here. Tonight, I want to bring it to a close, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in from YouTube. And once again, if you'd like to join us every week, just go here to starself.com/unplugged. That's how you join us Thursday nights, 8 to 9 Eastern, every Thursday, starself.com/unplugged. And next week will probably be another episode of astrology. And pretty soon we'll start having some guests again. Everybody stay safe. Don't get too wound up. Yeah, it was a heavy duty show. Thank you for tuning in. God bless everybody. Everybody, wear your masks. Wear your mask when you go to bed.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye. Stay safe.
Good night. Bye.
Long and prosper.